Welcome to Inside Iraq. I'm Jassim Azzawi. The U.S. claimed the surge is making progress and routing al-Qaeda. But with chaos reigning supreme, is victory slipping fast? With an Iraqi army yet to stand up and menacing militias yet to be crushed, will U.S. troops prevail in time before an impatient Congress throw in the towel? When General Petraeus addresses the U.S. Senate in mid-September, will he assure a skeptical nation of victory or ask for more time? Or will he face an August surprise? Ayman Muhyiddin reports.
Is it or is it not working? That's the question Americans want answered when General David Petraeus and Ambassador Ryan Crocker submit their assessment of President Bush's surge policy come September. But since their mission began in January, when President Bush ordered 20,000 more troops into Iraq, progress has been mixed. In an early draft report submitted in July, just a month after all U.S. troops that were called up to Iraq arrived, only 8 out of the 18 benchmarks imposed by the U.S. Congress on the Iraqi government had been met. In 8 other areas, progress was unsatisfactory, the report concluded. In 2 other areas, progress, or the lack thereof, was mixed. Despite the initial assessment, the U.S. Army's Chief of Staff said the surge was working.
The surge is having the intended military effect. Our guys are seeing progress on the security front. What remains to be seen is whether the Iraqis can take advantage of the opportunity and create the political accommodation that's going to take to succeed.
General Casey went so far to say his commanders are optimistic that the Iraqis could soon take over control in Nineveh, one of Iraq's largest provinces.
The Nineveh province, where Mosul, the second city of Iraq, is based, is about ready to move under Iraqi control.
But on the same day General Casey made those comments, a series of car bombs killed hundreds of Iraqis, making it one of the single deadliest attacks in the country. Ironically, the attacks happened in the same province the general cited for security progress. If the security situation in Iraq has improved, as General Casey and others have argued, it has certainly not curbed the number of Iraqis fleeing the country. According to the U.S. State Department, nearly 2.2 million Iraqis are now refugees in Jordan and Syria alone. And in President Bush's so-called war on terror, the U.S. intelligence community estimates the war in Iraq has done little to undermine al-Qaeda. On the contrary, say intelligence experts, they've concluded al-Qaeda is more determined to strike the U.S. now than ever before, and that Iraq has become a major recruiting ground for the network. In addition, the Iraqi government has yet to make substantial progress on some key issues such as a national oil law. Sunni politicians have withdrawn from Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki's cabinet, raising fears his government won't survive much longer. With a month to go until the final report is submitted to the U.S. Congress, many are wondering what, if anything, has changed since the interim report a month ago. One thing is certain: both sides of the Iraq war debate in Washington will use the report to drive their points even further. Ayman Muhyiddin for Inside Iraq, Washington.
To examine the military conditions in Iraq and to get a preview of what General Petraeus might report to the U.S. Senate, I'm joined from Baghdad by Brigadier General Kevin Bergner, spokesman of the multinational force in Iraq. General Bergner, welcome to Inside Iraq. Let me start with the multiple operations the U.S. Army is conducting for the past several weeks. We had Arrowhead Ripper, we had Phantom Strike, and now there is a big operation underway called Lightning Hammer. Are these making progress? And if the answer is yes, what is the nature of that progress?
Well, Jassim, first of all, thanks for allowing us to come talk to you on your show. The operations that you referred to are part of a broader operation that has been called Operation Phantom Thunder. And those operations have been specifically focused on improving population security in Baghdad and in the belts surrounding Baghdad, and applying pressure to the terrorist and extremist networks in both of those places simultaneously. And what we've seen over the last 8 weeks as those operations have gone forward is we have seen a significant improvement in the level of population security in places like Baquba, where just 2 months ago it would have been very difficult to get food distribution and medical supplies and the other essential services that the Iraqi people need into that city. Just this past weekend, the Deputy Prime Minister of Iraq, Barham Saleh, led a ministerial delegation to Baquba to meet with the provincial leaders, the governor and the council members, to work together to restore those essential services and to work on ways to further improve the security for the citizens of Baquba and Diyala province more broadly. And so the fact that the Deputy Prime Minister and other leaders from the central government are now able to go work directly with these provinces and directly with the people there is a very important sign of progress, not to mention the restoration of the food distribution systems and the medical supplies that are so important to the citizens of Iraq.
One hears these positive reports, and the President Bush, that is, mentioned it several times, and he's assuring the Congress as well as the American people that progress is being made in Iraq. I guess cynics would say, what makes you think it's sustainable? What makes you think this is permanent? What makes you think that the people you are chasing in Baquba and Diyala will not revert back and go to Anbar? The same people that you chased in Anbar, you know, they will come to other places. The militias that you chased in Sadr City and other places, they'll just go to the south and pretty much outwait you, waiting for the next phase of American deployment in Iraq.
Well, first of all, the nature of our operations and the effectiveness of both the coalition and the Iraqi security forces in placing pressure on al-Qaeda and on the extremist networks operating south of Baghdad is changing the dynamics of the population in many of these communities. And what I mean by that is we are now seeing tribal leaders who are stepping forward and working directly with the Iraqi security forces and the local and provincial governments. They are making commitments to one another to stand against al-Qaeda and to work together to restore security to their neighborhoods. It's that change in the population's commitment, their confidence to work with their government and their security forces that gives the momentum that's now underway the prospects of being sustainable and enduring over time.
Indeed, the dynamics is changing in Iraq. The alliances are shifting. The people that they were dominant in certain parts, you know, they have been routed. Having said that, and I know it's very difficult for you to comment on perhaps what other countries might think, but since it is in the public domain and it's just recent, yesterday in the House of Commons, the Foreign Relations Committee said they doubt very much that this surge will work out. They doubt very much that this is sustainable.
Well, first, these are important debates, Jassim, for each country to have. And we understand the nature of democratic governments, and we understand that this is a central issue for our country as well as the UK, as well as for the people of Iraq. And so these discussions are going to take place. What we base our assessments on and how we look at the circumstance is perhaps epitomized by what we saw this past week, when the Iraqi people joined together with their security forces to allow the safe commemoration of the death of the 7th Imam, very important religious commemoration, to take place. Millions of people marched into Baghdad to fulfill that obligation. They did so safely. They did so, most importantly, under an operation that was planned and coordinated and implemented by the Iraqi security forces with the coalition in support. But this is largely a core-level operation that the Iraqi forces undertook, both police and army forces, under the leadership of Lieutenant General Aboud, the commander of forces in Baghdad, and they did so very safely.
With all these positive news, and yet report after report, and let me quote you one from the American side, the U.S. Air Force, in conjunction with RAND, which is a quite prestigious outfit in the United States, it says, withdrawal by the United States is almost irresistible.
The commitment that our country has made to work with the Iraqi government and to help them restore a sustainable level of security in Iraq is something that we're working very hard to fulfill. And we're seeing progress in a number of different levels, but that's not to belie the point that this is still a very, very tough fight. It's still a very difficult challenge for both the Iraqi security forces and the coalition. There are signs of progress amidst a very difficult, tough fight that's going to continue to be difficult for some time to come.
One of the biggest problems facing the United States right now, and that is what public enemy. It used to be Al-Qaeda. Right now it's becoming the militias, just like the president said. To what extent do you think you will have better success in this next phase with the militias, since they have scattered and they are all over the place, especially from the center to the south?
Well, first of all, it's important to note up front that the security situation in Iraq is a very complex one. It's a mosaic, if you will. There are threats from a number of different groups, but unquestionably, Al-Qaeda in Iraq and its affiliate organizations are the #1 threat to the security and stability of the Iraqi people. And so we continue to focus a great deal of our effort on that because of the near-term threat that's largely represented by the spectacular attacks, these barbaric attacks that tend to incite sectarian tensions and are such a plague on the Iraqi people. That is what we're working very hard against. At the same time, we are chipping away at these other extremist groups, these special groups, which we have talked about very openly as a serious security problem for the people of Iraq and the coalition as well. And we are continuing to attack these special groups and interdict the sources of supply, sources of support, if you will, that they continue to benefit from. So both of them are an important aspect of our efforts in these operations that are underway and will continue to be a focus for us.
General Bergner, thank you very much. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, I'm going to ask him about the source of this weapons that is coming from across the border from Iran. Stay with us.
The enemy in Iraq is still dangerous, and the surge is still in its early stages. Changing conditions on the ground is difficult work, but our troops are proving that it can be done.